The night everything changed. The fluorescent lights of the downtown diner buzzed overhead like angry wasps. Jasmine Torres wiped down the same counter for the third time, her hands moving on autopilot while her mind drifted somewhere between exhaustion and desperation. The clock on the wall read 2:47 a.m., another hour and 15 minutes until her shift ended. Then she could go home, sleep for 90 minutes, and start all over again. Her phone vibrated in her apron pocket. Jasmine pulled it out with trembling fingers, already knowing what she would see. Another text from Mercy General Hospital. Another reminder that her mother's treatment was overdue. Another bill she could not pay. She closed her eyes and leaned against the counter, feeling the cool surface against her palms. How much longer could she keep this up? 3 jobs, 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And still, it was never enough. The medical bills kept coming, stacking up like cards in a house that was about to collapse. When the body gives up, Jasmine pushed herself off the counter and headed toward the kitchen. Table 7 needed their order. Table 3 wanted more coffee. The couple at table 9 had been sitting there for 2 hours, nursing a single piece of pie between them. She understood. Sometimes you just needed a warm place to exist. She pushed through the swinging door into the kitchen, and the heat hit her like a physical wall. The industrial dishwasher roared in the corner. The cook, an older man named Frank, looked up from the grill and frowned. "You okay, kid? You look pale." "I'm fine," Jasmine lied, grabbing the plates for table 7. The ceramic felt impossibly heavy in her hands. She walked back into the dining area, balancing the plates with practiced ease. But something was wrong. The room tilted slightly to the left. The buzzing lights grew louder, drowning out the soft jazz playing from the ancient radio behind the counter. Her vision blurred at the edges. Not now. Please. Not now. Jasmine made it to table 7 and set down the first plate. The customer said something, but his voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. She tried to respond, tried to smile, but her mouth would not cooperate. The second plate slipped from her fingers. She heard it shatter against the floor. Heard Frank shouting from the kitchen, heard the scrape of chairs as customers stood up, but it all seemed very far away. The floor rushed up to meet her, and then there was nothing but darkness. The stranger who cared, Harrison Blake, was not supposed to be in that diner at 3 in the morning. He should have been home in his penthouse, reviewing contracts or making calls to Tokyo. But insomnia had driven him out into the city, and hunger had led him to the only place still open at this hour. He sat in the corner booth, working on his laptop, when he heard the crash. His head snapped up just in time to see the young waitress collapse. For a moment, everyone in the diner froze, staring at the motionless figure on the floor. Harrison was moving before he consciously decided to. Years of making split-second decisions kicked in. He crossed the diner in 5 long strides and knelt beside the woman. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. Her face was pale, almost translucent, and there were shadows under her eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. "Someone call an ambulance," he ordered, his voice cutting through the shocked silence. Already on it, Frank called from behind the counter. Harrison checked her pulse. It was there, weak but steady. He looked at her NAMA tag. Jasmine. Her uniform was clean but worn, mended in several places. Her shoes were scuffed and old. He noticed the way her hands were red and chapped, the nails bitten down to the quick. This was someone who worked hard, someone who pushed herself beyond reasonable limits. The cook came over with a damp cloth. Harrison took it and gently placed it on Jasmine's forehead. Her eyelids fluttered, and for a moment he thought she might wake up. But then she went still again. "The ambulance is 15 minutes out," Frank said, worry creasing his weathered face. "She's been working herself to death. 3 jobs, all back to back. I told her she needed to slow down, but she wouldn't listen. Said she couldn't afford to." Something twisted in Harrison's chest. He knew that kind of desperation. He had lived it once, a lifetime ago. Before Blake Enterprises, before the money, before he had built walls so high that nothing could touch him, he made a decision that defied all logic. Cancel the ambulance, Harrison said, pulling out his phone. I'm taking her to my personal physician. Frank stared at him. You sure, mister? You don't even know her, I'm sure, Harrison called his driver, then carefully lifted Jasmine into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, all sharp angles and fragile bones. How long had she been running on empty? The other customers watched in stunned silence as Harrison Blake, one of the most powerful men in the city, carried an unconscious waitress out of a downtown diner and into his waiting car. Waking. Up in a different world, Jasmine's first thought when she opened her eyes was that she had died and gone to heaven. The ceiling above her was white and smooth, without a single crack or water stain. The bed beneath her felt like a cloud. Soft morning light filtered through enormous windows. She could see the city skyline stretching out below her. Then reality crashed back in. This was not heaven. This was not her cramped studio apartment with its broken heater and leaking faucet. She sat up too quickly, and the room spun. Strong hands caught her shoulders, steadying her. Easy, you fainted. You've been out for 6 hours? Jasmine turned her head and found herself staring into the most intense gray eyes she had ever seen. The man was handsome in a sharp, dangerous way. Expensive suit. Perfectly styled dark hair with just a touch of silver at the temples. The kind of man who owned boardrooms and made decisions that affected thousands of lives. Who are you? Her voice came out as a croak. Where am I? My name is Harrison Blake. You're in my home. You collapsed at the diner where you work. I brought you here. Jasmine tried to process this information. Harrison Blake. She knew that name. Everyone in the city knew that name. He owned half the commercial real estate downtown. His company employed thousands. He was on magazine covers and news programs, and she was in his home, in his bed wearing someone else's clothes. Panic flooded through her. She threw off the covers and tried to stand. Her legs immediately buckled. Harrison caught her before she hit the floor, his arms strong and sure around her waist. Let me go, she gasped, even as she sagged against him. I need to leave. I have to get to work. My shift at the hospital starts in 2 hours, and then I have the grocery store at 4, and I cannot lose any of these jobs. I cannot afford it. You're not going anywhere, Harrison said firmly. You collapsed from exhaustion. Your body shut down. If you go back to that schedule right now, you'll end up in the hospital. I don't have a choice. Tears burned in Jasmine's eyes. She hated this. Hated being weak, being vulnerable, being at the mercy of a stranger no matter how kind he seemed. My mother is sick. Stage 4. The treatments are expensive, and insurance only covers part of it. If I don't work, she doesn't get the care she needs. So please, just let me go. Harrison was silent for a long moment. Then he guided her back to the bed, making sure she was settled before he stepped back. I have a proposition for you, he said quietly. Hear me out before you say no. Jasmine looked at him warily. What kind of proposition? I need a personal assistant. Someone to manage my schedule, handle correspondence, coordinate with my various properties and projects. The job pays well. It's very well. Enough to cover your mother's treatment, and then some. It sounded too good to be true. And Jasmine had learned the hard way that when something sounded too good to be true, it usually was. Why would you offer me this? She asked. You don't know me. I'm just a waitress who fainted in a diner. Harrison's expression was unreadable. Let's just say I recognize someone who refuses to give up even when they should. I respect that. And I believe in helping people who are willing to work hard. I don't accept charity. This isn't charity. It's a job. You would earn every penny. Jasmine wanted to say no. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse to walk out of this penthouse and back into her own life, no matter how difficult it was. She did not want to owe anyone anything. But then she thought of her mother, lying in that hospital bed, getting weaker every day. She thought of the stack of bills on her kitchen counter, the collection calls, the constant fear that one day she would have to choose between treatment and basic survival. One condition, Jasmine said finally. I want a contract. Everything in writing. My duties, my salary, the length of employment. I need to know exactly what I'm agreeing to. For the first time, Harrison smiled. It transformed his face, softening the hard edges. Deal, my lawyer will draw up the paperwork today. Jasmine nodded, sealing a decision that would change everything. She did not know it yet, but she had just taken the first step toward a future she never could have imagined. Harrison. Blake had saved her life twice in one night. First, by carrying her out of that diner, and second, by offering her a lifeline when she was drowning. Now she just had to figure out why a man who had everything would want to help a woman who had nothing. Learning to trust the contract arrived the next morning. It's delivered by a woman in an immaculate pantsuit who introduced herself as Jennifer Park Harrison's head of legal affairs. Jasmine sat at the kitchen island in Harrison's penthouse, reading through every line, every clause, every detail. The salary made her head spin. It was more than she made at all 3 jobs combined, and the benefits package included full health, insurance for herself and immediate family members. Her mother would finally get the treatment she needed. Everything looks legitimate, Jennifer said. Sipping her coffee, Mr. Blake takes his business arrangements very seriously. If you have any questions, now is the time to ask. Jasmine looked up from the papers. Why is he doing this? Really? Jennifer's expression softened. Harrison Blake is a complicated man, but I've worked for him for 8 years, and I can tell you this. When he decides to help someone, he commits fully. He doesn't do anything halfway. After Jennifer left, Jasmine signed the contract with shaking hands. She immediately called the hospital and spoke with Monica Reed, the administrator who had been sending her those painful payment reminders. Miss Torres. I have some unusual news, Monica said, when Jasmine identified herself. Someone has paid your mother's entire account balance. Not just current bills, but 6 months forward. The payment came through an hour ago from Blake Enterprises. Jasmine closed her eyes, feeling tears slide down her cheeks. He had not even waited for her signature. He had simply acted, trusting that she would accept. The first to Harrison's world was nothing like Jasmine had imagined. She expected cold corporate efficiency, sterile offices, and emotionless transactions. Instead, she found organized chaos that hummed with purpose and passion. His main office occupied the top floor of the Blake Tower. All glass walls and modern furniture. But personal touches surprised her. Photographs of various construction projects lined one wall, showing buildings in different stages of completion. Books filled floor-to-ceiling shelves, everything from architecture to philosophy to classic literature.
I like facts.
The bones of things, Harrison explained when he caught her looking at the books. Buildings, businesses, people. Everything has structure underneath, and if you understand that structure, you can work with it instead of against it. He was patient as he showed her the systems he used. The various projects currently underway, the key people she would be coordinating with. His assistant for the past 5 years had recently retired, and he had been managing alone for 3 months. I'm not easy to work for, Harrison admitted as they reviewed his calendar. I work long hours. I expect excellence. But I also believe in fair compensation and treating people with respect. If you need something, tell me. If you disagree with me, say so. I don't want someone who just nods and agrees. I want someone who thinks. Jasmine found herself relaxing slightly. This was business. Clear expectations. Defined roles. She could do this. The first week passed in a blur of meetings, phone calls, and learning curves. Harrison had not exaggerated about the long hours. He arrived at the office by 7 each morning and rarely left before 8 at night. But he also made sure she took lunch breaks, asked if she needed anything, and never once made her feel like hired help. On Friday evening, as she was packing up her desk, Harrison appeared in the doorway of her small office adjacent to his. You did well this week, he said simply. Thank you. The unexpected praise warmed something in Jasmine's chest. Thank you for the opportunity. How is your mother doing? The question caught her off guard. Better. The doctors started a new treatment protocol. They're optimistic. Harrison nodded. Good, that's good. He hesitated, then added, I lost my mother when I was 17. Cancer. We didn't have the money for the treatments she needed. So I understand what you're fighting for. Before Jasmine could respond, he turned and walked back to his office, leaving her standing there with a completely different understanding of Harrison Blake. Cracks in the armor. Second week brought an unexpected challenge. Harrison had a major presentation to the City Planning Commission about a new affordable housing development. The project was his passion, she had learned, something he had been working on for 2 years. But 2 days before the presentation, his lead architect called in sick with pneumonia. Jasmine found Harrison at midnight, still in his office, surrounded by blueprints and financial projections. He had loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves. His hair was disheveled from running his hands through it. He looked tired, and for the first time since she had met him, uncertain. "I can't do this alone," he said, when he noticed her in the doorway. David knew these plans inside and out. "I know the business side, but the technical architectural details, that was his domain." Jasmine set down the coffee she had brought him. "Talk me through it." Sometimes explaining things to someone else helps clarify your own thinking. For the next 3 hours, Harrison walked her through every aspect of the project. As he talked, Jasmine took notes, asked questions, and helped him organize the presentation into a coherent narrative. She had never studied architecture or urban planning, but she understood people and stories. And this project was both. "It's not about profit," Harrison said as dawn began to light the windows. "I grew up in a place like the neighborhood we're building in. Run-down apartments, broken infrastructure, no opportunities. People deserve better. They deserve safe homes, good schools, community spaces. They deserve hope." Jasmine looked at him, really looked at him, and saw past the expensive suits and the corporate power. She saw the 17-year-old boy who had watched his mother die because they could not afford treatment. She saw someone who had climbed out of poverty and now wanted to throw ropes down to help others climb too. "You're going to change lives with this project," she said quietly, "and I think David would be proud of how you present his work." Harrison met her eyes, and something passed between them. A connection deeper than employer and employee. A recognition of shared understanding. "Thank you, Jasmine, for staying, for helping." "That's what you pay me for," she said lightly, trying to ease the intensity of the moment. "No," Harrison said. "This went beyond job duties. This was kindness. There's a difference." The presentation that changed everything. The City Planning Commission meeting was packed. Developers, activists, residents, and reporters filled every seat. Jasmine sat in the back row, watching as Harrison took the podium. He had barely slept in 2 days. But he stood tall and confident. He presented the project not as a business opportunity, but as a moral imperative. He showed the architectural plans that honored the neighborhood's history while providing modern amenities. He detailed the financial structure that made units affordable without compromising quality. He spoke about the community center, the green spaces, the partnerships with local schools. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. The commission voted unanimously to approve the project. Afterward, in the elevator down to the parking garage, Harrison turned to Jasmine with a smile that lit up his entire face. "We did it." "Did it?" she corrected. "No, we couldn't have pulled that presentation together without you." The elevator doors opened, but neither of them moved. They stood there, close enough that Jasmine could smell his cologne, could see the flecks of gold in his gray eyes. "Jasmine," Harrison said softly, "I need to tell you something." Her heart began to race. "What?" "When I saw you collapse in that diner, something in me recognized something in you. I've been alone for a long time. I built walls to protect myself after my mother died, after I fought my way out of poverty. I told myself I didn't need anyone. But then you came into my life, and those walls started crumbling." Jasmine could not breathe. "Harrison, I don't think this is appropriate. We have a professional relationship." "I know, and I won't do anything to jeopardize that if you're not comfortable. But I need you to know truth. This stopped being just a job for me about 3 days after you started. Every morning, I look forward to seeing you. Every conversation we have, I learn something new. You make me remember why I started all this in the first place. You remind me what matters." "Can't," Jasmine whispered, even as her heart screamed, "Yes." I can't afford to lose this job. My mother needs the insurance. I need the stability. If things went wrong between us, I would lose everything. Harrison stepped back, giving her space. I understand. And I respect that. Your job is secure, no matter what. That's a promise. But Jasmine, I need you to know that you're not just an employee to me. You're someone I care about. Someone I trust. Someone I want in my life, in whatever capacity you're comfortable with. The elevator doors started to close. Harrison caught them, holding them open. Think about it, he said. No pressure. No expectations. Just honesty. The past that haunts that night. Jasmine visited her mother at the hospital. Patricia Torres looked better than she had in months. Color had returned to her cheeks. Her eyes were brighter. You looked happy, Patricia said, studying her daughter's face. Really happy. Not just I'm pretending everything is fine happy. Jasmine settled into the chair beside the bed. My new job is good. Really good. Is it the job that's making you happy, or is it your boss? Leave it to her mother to see right through her. Jasmine sighed. Is it that obvious? Baby, I've known you for 24 years. I can read you like a book. Patricia reached out and took her daughter's hand. Tell me about him. So Jasmine did. She told her mother about Harrison, about his kindness and his intensity, about the way he looked at her like she mattered, about his confession in the elevator. And you're scared, Patricia said when Jasmine finished. Terrified. What if I let myself care about him and he changes his mind? What if I'm just a project to him, someone he's rescuing? What if the power imbalance makes everything complicated? I can't lose this job, Mom. I can't lose your insurance. Patricia squeezed her hand. Jasmine, listen to me. You've spent your whole life being careful, being safe, working yourself to exhaustion because you were afraid to take any risks. And look where that got you. You collapsed from exhaustion. You were drowning. But what if I'm wrong about him? What if you're right? What if this man is exactly who he seems to be? Someone kind, someone genuine, someone who sees your worth? Don't let fear rob you of something beautiful. Jasmine felt tears threatening. When did you get so wise? The moment you were born. Now, go home. Think about what you really want. Not what's safe, not what's practical. What do you actually want? The decision Jasmine spent the weekend wrestling with herself. She walked through the city, sat in coffee shops, journaled until her hand cramped. Every logical argument said to maintain professional boundaries. Every emotional instinct said to take the leap. On Monday morning, she arrived at the office early. Harrison was already there, of course, working at his desk. He looked up when she knocked on his open door. Good morning, he said carefully, his expression neutral, giving her space. Respecting her boundaries. I've been thinking about what you said, Jasmine began. Her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. And I need to know something first. When you offered me this job, was it because you were attracted to me? Or was it really about giving me an opportunity? Harrison stood and came around the desk. He stopped a respectful distance away. When I offered you the job, I genuinely believed you would be excellent at it. I saw someone who worked hard, who cared deeply, who refused to quit even when circumstances were impossible. The attraction came later. As I got to know you, as I watched you work, as I heard your thoughts and saw your compassion, I fell for who you are, not what you looked like on that diner floor. I'm scared, Jasmine admitted. I've never had anything good come easy. I'm waiting for the catch. For the moment when this all falls apart, I'm scared too, Harrison said. I haven't let anyone close in 15 years. But Jasmine, I think we're both tired of being scared. I think we both deserve a chance at something real. Jasmine took a deep breath. Okay? Okay? Let's try. Slowly, carefully, but let's try. The smile that spread across Harrison's face was worth every ounce of fear. He closed the distance between them and cupped her face gently in his hands. I promise I will never make you regret this. When he kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise, Jasmine finally let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, fairy tales could come true for girls who'd spent their whole lives fighting. The honeymoon phase the next month felt like living in a dream. Harrison and Jasmine kept their relationship private at work, maintaining professional boundaries during business hours. But evenings were theirs. They had dinner at small restaurants where nobody recognized Harrison Blake, the billionaire. They walked through parks, talking for hours about everything and nothing. They watched old movies in his home theater, curled up together on the massive couch. Harrison introduced Jasmine to his world slowly, carefully. A charity gala where she met his business associates. A weekend trip to visit one of his development projects upstate. Each experience showed her a different facet of the man she was falling in love with. He was generous without being showy, brilliant without being condescending, powerful without being cruel. He remembered small details about her likes and dislikes. He asked about her mother every day. He made her laugh until her sides hurt. But Jasmine noticed something else too. Harrison never talked about his past beyond the bare facts he had shared that first week. He never mentioned friends from childhood or stories from his teenage years. It was as if his life had started the day he founded Blake Enterprises at 22. "Why don't you ever talk about your past?" Jasmine asked one evening as they sat on his balcony, watching the sun set over the city. Harrison's arm tightened around her shoulders. "Because most of it isn't worth remembering. Try me." He was quiet for so long that Jasmine thought he might not answer. Then he began to speak, his voice low and rough. "After my mother died, I was alone. No father in the picture. No other family. I aged out of foster care at 18 with nothing but a high school diploma and anger that could have burned down the world. I worked construction during the day, took business classes at community college at night. I slept in my car for 2 years because I couldn't afford rent and tuition both." Jasmine's throat tightened, but she stayed silent, letting him continue. "I started Blake Enterprises with money I saved and a loan from a man who believed in me when nobody else did. I worked 18-hour days for 5 years straight. I sacrificed everything for success because I told myself that if I became rich enough, powerful enough, I would never be helpless again. Never have to watch someone I love suffer because we couldn't afford help. That's why the affordable housing project matters so much to you," Jasmine said softly. "That's why all of it matters. Every building I construct, every business I help start, every job I create. It's all trying to make up for the fact that I couldn't save my mother." Turned to face him fully. "Harrison, you were 17 years old? It wasn't your responsibility to save her. Then whose was it?" The pain in his voice broke her heart. "She was everything to me, and I failed her." "No," Jasmine said firmly, taking his face in her hands. "The system failed her. Poverty failed her. Illness failed her. But you were a child who loved his mother and did everything you could. And now you're a man who honors her memory by helping thousands of people. That's not failure. That's beautiful." Harrison pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. She felt his chest shake and realized he was crying. Silent tears for a grief he had carried alone for almost 20 years. They sat there as the sun disappeared and stars emerged, holding each other, healing together. The ghost of relationships passed. Everything changed on a Wednesday afternoon when a woman walked into Harrison's office without knocking. Jasmine looked up from her desk, ready to politely redirect the visitor, but froze when she saw Harrison's expression. He had gone pale. His hands clenched into fists on his desk. "Claire," he said, his voice cold as winter. "What are you doing here?" The woman was stunning. Tall, elegant, wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than Jasmine's monthly salary. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves. Her makeup was flawless, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. "Hello, Harrison," Claire said, her voice smooth as honey. "It's been 3 years. You look good. You need to leave. I just want to talk." 5 minutes. No. Claire's gaze shifted to Jasmine, and something cold flickered in her blue eyes. "Is this your new assistant?" "She's cute. Very different from your usual type." Jasmine stood, instinctively positioning herself between Claire and Harrison. "Mr. Blake asked you to leave. I'm going to have to call security if you don't go voluntarily." Claire laughed. "Feisty. I see why you like her, Harrison. She reminds you of yourself. All that desperation to prove you're worth something. That's enough, Harrison said, standing. Jasmine, call security. But before Jasmine could reach for the phone, Claire pulled an envelope from her purse and tossed it onto Harrison's desk. I'm getting married, she announced, to Richard Thornton. You remember him, don't you? Your former business partner? We wanted to invite you to the wedding. Show there are no hard feelings. The silence that followed was suffocating. Harrison stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Get out, he said quietly. Now, Claire shrugged, already turning toward the door. Think about it, Harrison. It would mean a lot to Richard. And to me, after she left, Harrison sank back into his chair. He looked shattered, all the careful composure stripped away. Jasmine closed the office door and sat across from him. Who was that? My ex-fiancé? His voice was hollow. We were engaged 4 years ago. I was planning our wedding. I had bought a ring. I thought she loved me. But then I lost a major investment. About $5 million. It wasn't catastrophic, but it was a setback. And apparently it was enough for her to decide I wasn't a good bet anymore. She left me for Richard, who was my business partner at the time. He had just closed a deal that made him $50 million. Understanding dawned. She left you for money. She left me because I wasn't successful enough. And Richard betrayed our partnership to steal both my fiancé and a client list we had built together. Harrison laughed bitterly. I rebuilt, obviously. I'm worth 10 times what I was then. But the lesson stuck. People leave when things get hard. People choose money over loyalty. Everyone has a price. I don't, Jasmine said firmly. Harrison looked at her and she saw the doubt in his eyes. The wound that Claire and Richard had left had never fully healed. Harrison, I fell in love with you before I knew your net worth. I fell in love with the man who stayed up all night perfecting a presentation. The man who remembers my coffee order. The man who calls my mother every Sunday to check on her. Money didn't make you worth loving. You did that all by yourself. How can I trust that? Harrison asked, and the vulnerability in his voice was devastating. How can I trust that you won't wake up one day and realize you could do better? Someone your own age. Someone without all this baggage. Someone who hasn't failed at every relationship he's ever tried to have. Jasmine moved around the desk and knelt beside his chair, taking his hands in hers. Because I'm not Claire. I'm not anyone from your past. I'm Jasmine Torres, and I choose you. Not your money. Not your success. You. The sabotage, but Claire was not done. Over the next 2 weeks, small things began to go wrong. A major client suddenly pulled out of a deal, citing concerns about Harrison's judgment. Rumors started circulating in business circles that Blake Enterprises was having financial troubles. Someone leaked confidential information about the affordable housing project to a rival developer. Harrison worked around the clock to contain the damage, growing more stressed and withdrawn. Jasmine helped where she could. But she felt helpless watching him struggle. Then she received a phone call from an unknown number. Ms. Torres. This is Angela, West from the Metropolitan Journal. I'm working on a story about Harrison Blake's business practices, and I understand you're his personal assistant. I'd like to ask you some questions. I have no comment, Jasmine said immediately. Not even about the special treatment you've received? The job you weren't qualified for? The fact that your mother's medical bills are being paid by Blake Enterprises? Some people might call that an inappropriate relationship. Maybe even a scandal. Jasmine's blood ran cold. Who gave you this information? I protect my sources. But, Miss Torres, this story is running with or without your input. You might want to get ahead of it. Tell your side. Jasmine hung up and immediately went to Harrison's office. He was on a conference call, but when he saw her face, he ended it abruptly. What happened? She told him everything. As she spoke, Harrison's expression grew darker. Claire, he said when she finished, she's trying to destroy my reputation by making our relationship look predatory. Make it seem like I exploited you. She's also the one behind the client pulling out and the leaked information, isn't she? Harrison nodded grimly. Richard and Claire want to take over the affordable housing project. If they can discredit me, they can swoop in as the more stable developers. It's all about money and revenge. What do we do? Harrison ran his hands through his hair. I need to think. I need to figure out how to protect you from this. Maybe you should distance yourself from me publicly. Quit the job. We can make it look mutual, like you found a better opportunity. Absolutely not, Jasmine said firmly. I'm not running, and I'm not letting them win. Jasmine, they could ruin your reputation, make you look like you slept your way into a job. Your mother's treatment could be questioned. This could get ugly, and let it get ugly. Harrison, you taught me something important. You taught me that sometimes you have to fight for what matters, and you matter to me. We matter. I'm not letting Claire and Richard take that away. The truth comes out. Jasmine made a decision that night. She contacted Angela West and agreed to an interview. But she set terms. The interview would be recorded. She would tell the complete, unedited truth. And if Angela twisted her words, Jasmine would release the recording publicly. They met at a coffee shop the next morning. Angela was younger than Jasmine expected, maybe 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Tell me your story, Angela said, setting up her recorder. All of it. So Jasmine did. She talked about working 3 jobs, about collapsing from exhaustion, about waking up in Harrison's penthouse. She explained the job offer, showed Angela the contract, detailed her exact duties and qualifications. She talked about falling in love, about Harrison's past, about Claire and Richard's betrayal. This is about revenge, Jasmine said passionately. Harrison Blake built something good, something that helps people. And 2 vindictive people are trying to destroy it because they can't stand seeing him succeed after they threw him away. Don't let them use you to do it. Angela was quiet for a moment, reviewing her notes. Can you prove any of the sabotage? Not yet. But I know someone who might be able to help. Jasmine spent the next 3 days digging. She contacted former employees of Richard's company. She reviewed public records. She found patterns of similar sabotage in other situations where Richard wanted to take over a competitor's project, and then she found the smoking gun. An email thread between Claire and Richard accidentally CC'd to a consultant who Harrison had worked with. The consultant, who admired Harrison, forwarded the emails to Jasmine. In the emails, Claire and Richard explicitly discussed their plan to discredit Harrison, take over the housing project, and profit from it. They joked about using Jasmine as a pawn. They celebrated each setback Harrison faced. Jasmine brought everything to Angela. This is your real story. Not a scandal about inappropriate relationships. A story about corporate sabotage and the people fighting back. Angela's article ran the following Sunday. The headline read, "When Success Breeds Sabotage, How One Developer's Quest to Help the Poor Made Him a Target." The article detailed everything. Harrison's background, his mother's death, his rise from poverty, Claire and Richard's betrayal 4 years ago. The current sabotage attempts, Jasmine's story of falling in love with a man who valued character over credentials. The public response was overwhelming. Social media exploded with support for Harrison. Other business owners came forward with their own stories of Richard's unethical practices. The City Planning Commission launched an investigation. Within a week, Richard and Claire withdrew from the housing project entirely. Several of Harrison's clients who had pulled out quietly returned. The resolution on a quiet Saturday evening. Harrison and Jasmine stood on the balcony of his penthouse. The city lights sparkled below them like earthbound stars. "Thank you," Harrison said, pulling her close. "For fighting for us, for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself." "You would have done the same for me," Jasmine said simply. "I love you." The words came easily now, without fear. "I love your strength, your compassion, your refusal to back down. You changed my life, Jasmine Torres."
Us.
"You changed mine first," she replied. "You saw me when I was invisible. You valued me when I felt worthless. You taught me that accepting help doesn't make you weak. It makes you human." Harrison reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Jasmine's breath caught. "I'm not asking you to marry me," he said quickly. "Not yet. We've only been together for 3 months and I know we need more time. But this is a promise. He opened the box, revealing a delicate silver ring with a single small diamond. "A promise that I will choose you every day, that I will fight for us the way you fought for me, that I will never let fear stop me from loving you." Tears streamed down Jasmine's face as he slipped the ring onto her right hand. "I promised the same thing." They kissed as the city hummed below them. Two people who had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances and chosen to build something real from the broken pieces of their pasts. 6 months later, the affordable housing development was complete. Harrison and Jasmine stood together at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, watching as families moved into their new homes. Children played in the community center. Elderly residents sat on benches in the green spaces. The project had exceeded every expectation. Patricia Torres was there too, out of the hospital and in remission. She stood with her arm around her daughter, beaming with pride. "You did this," Patricia whispered to Jasmine. "Your strength inspired him. His resources made it possible. Together, you created something beautiful." Jasmine watched Harrison talking with residents, learning their names, promising that this was just the beginning. He caught her eye and smiled, that brilliant smile that still made her heart skip. She thought about the night she had collapsed in that diner, exhausted and hopeless. She thought about waking up in a stranger's home, terrified of accepting help. She thought about all the moments of doubt and fear that had brought her to this moment, and she understood something profound. Life did not always go the way you planned. Sometimes you had to fall before someone could catch you. Sometimes you had to admit you needed help before you could accept it. Sometimes you had to risk everything for the chance at something real. Harrison Blake had saved her life, but she had saved his too. They had rescued each other from loneliness, from fear, from the belief that they had to face the world alone. As the sun set on the new development, painting the buildings in shades of gold and pink, Jasmine knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Overworked and unnoticed. She had fainted. But when she woke up, she found not just a CEO who decided she deserved better. She found a partner. She found love. She found home. And that was the most beautiful ending of all.